Hey there. So in this video I want to discuss the topic of eating out, whether it be at a restaurant, at a cafe, at a coffee shop, wherever. Um, Eating out is a very difficult task for someone with an eating disorder. And for those of you who are watching who don't have an eating disorder but are wondering, the sort of things that go through someone's mind when they go out on, when they have an eating disorder, it's innumerable. I'll give you some examples. The first of which, they're obviously anxious about the food. People with eating disorders, they tend to calorie count quite a lot, and when you go to a restaurant, that is sort of all blown out of the water because most of these places don't have calorie counts, so they don't really know what they're getting. The second thing is that there's so much choice. When they look at the menu, that you know they have no idea what to pick. They're obviously going to try and pick what they think is the healthiest option, but it's so difficult to know what's healthy and what's not. And so they can spend so long trying to pick something on the menu that it's crazy. Um, yeah, it's something that I've definitely seen when I was back all the way back in Rhodes Farm. The owner of Rhodes Farm, she took us out for a meal, as a sort of anxiety challenge, and some of the girls took like 20 minutes or so to choose what to eat, and it was very difficult. The other thing that people struggle with is to eat in public. People with eating disorders, they tend to become very socially withdrawn, and they eat on their own quite a lot because they don't want other people to see what they're eating. Firstly, because they don't want them judging them for thinking that they're eating a lot, which is never normally the case. But they don't want to be seen as looking like they're a fat person. Yeah, and the other thing is that people with eating disorders, they tend to have a lot of rituals around food. So they want to be able to perform those rituals, but they obviously don't want to be seen doing them because people who don't have an eating disorder will look at them and think that they're weird. And obviously that's what they're going to think when they try and eat out. The other thing is that restaurants, they tend to have very different portion sizes to what they're used to. When you're eating ready meals, the portion sizes tend to be very small, and obviously when you're home cooking, you can make the portions big or small as you want. But when you go to a restaurant, the plate of food that comes at your table is normally a bit bigger than what you're used to, and that's because when you go out to eat at a restaurant, it's a treat, and the portion size is maybe slightly larger, but again, it's a big struggle for people with eating disorders. So, what can you do about it to try and ease your way back into this, very normal behaviour? Well, the first thing is to try and not to do it on your own. When you try and re-establish these normal behaviours, um, the normal thing to do is to do it with other people, and not only will it make it a lot more fun to be around other people, but they can be there to support you. And if you let them know exactly what's going through your mind before you head out, um, they will know what's going through your mind, so they can tailor their support to what you actually need, rather than them thinking, I don't know what they're thinking, what can I say to make them feel better? Because people without eating disorders, they have no idea because they're thinking rationally, and what that means is when they're trying to help you, they tend to say the wrong thing, mainly out of frustration more than anything else. But if you can let them know exactly what you're feeling, it will make their support a lot more helpful for you. The other thing that I found very helpful was to not plan where you are going until the moment that you're about to leave. And this is because the internet is a big place now, and all of these restaurants have websites where you can check the menu. And this is something that loads of people I know have done. I've done it myself. And if I remember my dad was saying that he was going to come up to Cambridge and take me out for a meal, and I said, okay, I'll have a think about when you're coming, and whatever. I tried to act all cool that I was so relaxed about it, but in my mind, I was going a million miles a second, and I decided exactly where we were going to go right after that phone call, and I went on the website. I looked at the menu, and basically I spent the next week deciding what I was going to have, but that made that week so tense for me. I really disliked that week. And when my dad came, I told him what I'd done, essentially, because I hated how I felt that week. And what he decided to do was say, okay, we're not going there. I'm going to take you somewhere else. And I hated him for it at the time, but as soon as I got in there, I realised how helpful he'd been for, how helpful that was for me, because it meant that I couldn't pre-plan what I was doing. I had to make a decision on the spot, and he definitely eased me to making my decision because he was so relaxed. It made me feel relaxed, and he'd been dealing with me for years now, and he just calmed me down. I chose what I wanted to eat, what I honestly wanted to eat, not what I thought was the healthiest. I ended up having, I think it was a ribeye steak with chips. And bearing in mind that things like salads and things were on the menu, I definitely pushed the boat out that time. But I felt so good afterwards. So yeah, that's one bit of advice that I can give you. Do not pre-plan. Make the decision on the spot, or better yet, let your friend make the decision based on, they know who you are, they know what you like. So yeah, that's definitely a decision that you can come to together, really. Now, when you're actually there, if the restaurant does have calorie counts on it, you've got to try and make a tunnel vision and don't look at those numbers, because if it's your first time trying to go to a restaurant, you're going to try and pick the lowest option, and that sort of defies the whole point of trying to challenge yourself. You're not challenging yourself, you're giving into the anxiety just a bit later down the road. So the challenge was to go to the restaurant, eat a meal, and feel good afterwards. You've done the first bit by going to the restaurant, but you've given in at the second point, so you're obviously not going to feel good at the end. You're going to feel as though you failed in a way. So if you do go out, put the tunnel vision on and just pick what you honestly want to have. And if you are struggling, make sure that you let the person know that you're really trying not to look at these numbers, because it will almost certainly ruin the experience for you. When I was back in the Priory last year, every week we would go out into the community, pick our lunch, and have it back at the hospital. And every week the same thing happened. The girls said that they weren't going to look, and they looked and they picked the healthiest option. I decided to go against the grain and went to Tesco, and they've got those sort of deli counters, which obviously don't have calorie counts, and I ordered small pizza every week, and it wasn't a sort of routine for me. It wasn't something that I thought, oh god, I've got to have another pizza. I love pizza, and it's my favourite thing to eat. We didn't get it at the Priory, so I took that as a weekly treat in a way, and it definitely helped me through. So yeah, those are my bits of advice on trying to eat out again. If you have any questions in relation to the subject, please let me know in the comment section below. Post to me on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever. Thanks for watching.